Well, I think it's about time to finish what I started many years ago, my in-depth Spider-Man review series. Spider-Man 3 was directed by Sam Raimi, written by Sam and Ivan Raimi and Alvin Sargent, and it stars Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst, James Franco, Thomas Hayden Church, Topher Grace, Bryce Dallas Howard, and J.K. Simmons. And of course, this is the third installment of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy, releasing in 2007. I reviewed the first two films in a lot of depth on this channel before, links to both are on screen now, and somehow it took me longer to talk about this trilogy than it took the filmmakers to make 3 movies. However, there is a little caveat to why they wrapped up the trilogy so fast, which I'll speak about later. But for a recap of my thoughts on the first two, I really like Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man 2. These movies are very goofy and I love them for it, with 2 being my favourite. 3, on the other hand, well, let's see. Here's my review of Spider-Man 3. So after a pretty excellent title sequence that reminds us what good Spider-Man movies look like, we see that everything's same as usual. Peter's still hanging around with children, riding a goofy moped, and getting bullied. But most importantly, MJ still sucks. Now, I would like to make one thing very clear to all of you audience members watching, and that's that this movie is kind of all over the place and hard to tell in a linear fashion because of how much stuff they tried to do in one movie. As in only the first 10 minutes we have the whole weird Harry-Peter dynamic, MJ's boring ass play, the Venom symbiote literally falling out of the sky, Aunt May's wedding ring, and we meet Flint Marko through some very heavy exposition.
I'm just here to see my daughter.
You are an escaped convict. The cops are looking for you.
Yeah, I could have guessed. Which is a shame, because I really like Thomas Hayden Church as Sandman in this movie. I think he gives a pretty good performance, and his Sandman is honestly pretty compelling. Unfortunately, his motivation kind of goes out of the window for no reason, and as will be a common theme in this video, it feels like his storyline is somewhat rushed. But I feel like I'm being too negative, so let's bring out some things I did like. And I still think that Sam Raimi is a very good director. What he was able to build in Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man 2 still comes together to build a compelling storyline with good characters. Tobey Maguire is still great, and all of the other performances are still great. The camera work is pretty good, and these movies have such a charming and distinct feel to them that make them very much feel like a contained Spider-Man trilogy that is true to the source material, but it also kind of stands completely separately, stylistically, from anything else superhero movies have ever done. So while, yeah, there may be some problems with this movie, this is still a very complete feeling trilogy. Anyway, Peter's back on his stupid little moped, and oh my god, Jesus Christ, spider senses weren't working there. Aside from it being out of the blue, this fight scene isn't the best. It goes along for way too long, the CGI is pretty dated, and they have a weird amount of focus on the wedding ring that goes absolutely nowhere. But to make things even more frustrating, they keep on breaking up the action with these stupid dialogue scenes that don't work.
He was trying to kill me! He killed himself!
How could you have committed suicide?
No!
So then Harry gets CTE, and I don't know what to feel here. The fight was very mid and unfocused, and the injury to Harry was played for a laugh, and then played seriously the very next scene. But the major problem is it all comes from nowhere. This is only 15 minutes in, and we don't properly process why Harry is doing this, the ramifications of his decision, or how Peter feels about it. And just like that, it's over and Harry's got memory loss. Great. So all of that build-up and time spent is just wasted, I guess. And again, all of this is only 15 minutes in. This is still a pretty cool shot though.
You have lovely friends.
My best friends.
Johnny's my best friend.
Also, James Cromwell is in this movie. I've seen this movie 3 times now, and Somehow it skipped my mind the first 2 times watching it that James Cromwell was in this, so I don't know, maybe I was distracted by a couple of other things, but they give this weird intro to Flint Marko, except from he's already been introduced. It feels like really weird scene placement. But anyway, Flint falls into this active nuclear facility that operates in the middle of the night in a giant open pit, which results in him becoming Sandman. And some dodgy CGI aside, the scene of him becoming Sandman is genuinely beautiful. It's very well shot, conceptually they use some really nice ideas here, but most importantly, there's some really vivid emotion that they're able to show here that really resonates with me. Great scene. Then MJ realizes that no one likes her except Peter, and I don't like this subplot. It's weird seeing Peter himself have absolutely nothing going on, and he's actually doing pretty well in life at this point. So to compensate, they make MJ's life go to shit. The problem is, nothing comes from it. They just argue, then continue like it didn't happen. You'd think they'd have Spider-Man embrace the symbiote to solve all his problems, but he doesn't really have any, so these scenes kind of just happen. Similar to how crane accidents randomly happen. Now this sequence is actually pretty cool, I like it a lot, but it does feel like it's from a completely different movie. And to illustrate that, even the theme sounds like it's been rushed. But hey, at least he saves Gwen, hold that Andrew, and Eddie Brock kind of just shows up. But this scene's still at least pretty funny. Speaking of comedy, we return to the Daily Bugle for our one scene with Tobey Maguire giving a presentation. Wait, that's not Tobey, that's the director's brother. At first, there's some pretty good physical comedy, but it goes on for so long I thought I was watching Family Guy, and after Jameson tells us about what he thinks of making a Madam Web movie,
That is the dumbest idea you've ever had, and you have had some doozies!
Blood pressure.
Pete gets himself into a rivalry with Eddie. And okay, this joke got me.
You want a staff job, and you want a staff job. Anybody care about what I want?
I do.
Shut up. Get out.
He's not in the movie much, in fact, most things in the movie aren't in the movie much, but I still love J.K. Simmons' performance as J. Jonah Jameson. He just knocks it out of the park in every scene he's in. Then Peter stumbles upon the fact that he's apparently getting the keys to the city, and then Stan Lee stumbles upon him. And I have mixed opinions on this scene. It's kind of gratuitous, like a late MCU Stan Lee cameo where the script is specifically written around his cameo. Still, rest in peace to Stan the Man, and screw you guys, this scene is still very heartwarming to me. Also, I found it really funny seeing Harry and Peter playing basketball. It, for some reason, just gave me vibes of The Room whenever they throw a football around for no reason. And I also found this bit really funny as well. Now, one of the biggest problems I have with the film is that I simply don't understand what the plan was with Peter and MJ's relationship. He's not had the symbiote yet, so it's not that. And Harry's still got memory loss, so it's not that either. Yet MJ just isn't telling Peter that she got fired, and this feels so unnecessary. There's no story or character-based justification on why any of these things are going on. It's just friction and conflict for the sake of it, because there is absolutely nothing else interesting to do with their relationship in this film. And it's made even worse when Peter, on a whim seemingly, just decides to cheat on his girlfriend in front of her because people randomly started chanting "kiss her." You know, like people do. It's just such an unnecessary moment, and why did these two characters do these two things to each other? It's character drama for the sake of character drama. Welcome to the CW. And also, it's randomly intercut with pointless Sandman shenanigans. They fight in a sequence that feels straight out of the PS4 game, which is pretty cool, I guess. And I actually quite liked this meta line.
Where do all these guys come from?
Why did they jump cut like that though? So, Peter goes to get dinner with a French stereotype. Oh yeah, and MJ. Just kidding, they break up. Just kidding, they're talking again. Because they've retconned Uncle Ben's death, so now Sandman did it. Why they made this change, I'm not really sure about, but with some bad dreams, Spider-Man finally, an hour into the movie, embraces the symbiote. Now, while these shots of symbiote suit Spider-Man do go incredibly hard, I don't get why it took us this long to get to this point. And the obvious answer is because there's so much stuff going on in the movie, it doesn't have time to do all the symbiote stuff. But really, if you're going to make your movie about Venom and the Venom symbiote, you should probably make all of your movie about it instead of just the second half of the film.
Another sandstorm is reported in the vicinity. All cars, proceed with caution.
Marco.
Polo. Spider-Man and Sandman then have a pretty great fight sequence that ends with Spider-Man making Sandman wet, and afterwards Peter decides to become the worst thing known to man, an emo. MJ then decides that cheating is okay because this movie needs even more relationship drama, and this kiss seemingly unlocks Harry Osborn's memories and allows him to unlock Willem Cam. And Willem Dafoe gives such a good performance in his 5 seconds of screen time in this film that he manages to convince Harry to be evil and enact his evil plan. Step 1 is threaten MJ for literally no reason. Step 2, have her break up with Peter. Again. Step 3, tell Peter that this was your secret plan. And step 4, film a KFC ad.
How's the pie?
So good.
Oh, and I guess he's also Batman now. They have a pretty awkward fight, and we got a lot of meme potential here.
Gonna cry?
Which concludes in yet another instance of Harry receiving an injury that he probably should have died from. Then, after threatening Eddie,
I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye.
and getting him fired from the Daily Bugle, we get my favourite part of the movie. No, seriously, this is my favourite bit of the movie. I don't know, something about this whole emo Peter sequence, it just brings a smile to my face. I find it really funny. I can't tell whether it's irony or not yet, and I'll get back to you when I do. But for now, all I'll say is just, I really enjoy this sequence. There are a lot of things wrong with Spider-Man 3, but being honest, emo Peter isn't one of them. The real problem I have with the Tobey Maguire symbiote suit thing is it only takes up about 10 to 15 minutes of the movie before it's then dropped. Yet another element of this story is completely rushed over. I really feel like they could have made 2 movies out of Spider-Man 3, the first half just being about Sandman and Harry and maybe include the symbiote and have him drop the symbiote suit at the end, and make the second movie about Venom and Eddie Brock, but they try and cram them together, and because of this, everything just feels so rushed. For example, the next 3 snippets I'm going to show you are all within under 60 seconds of each other.
Now dig on this.
To say the least, this movie has problems with tonal inconsistency. However, I did very much like the scene of Spider-Man giving up the symbiote suit, and what's Eddie doing here? Oh yeah, so he can become Venom. An hour and 40 minutes into the movie, and only 3 scenes later we're into the final battle. MJ gets herself kidnapped again, and oh yeah, Sandman's in this movie. They keep on cutting to a crowd of J. Jonah Jameson and other news people watching this, and I really have no idea why they keep on breaking up what's a pretty intense action sequence with very meaningless reaction shots. And things are looking bad for Spider-Man until Butler X Machina. Yep, it was the Butler all along who knew everything but chose to only set things straight at the most climactic point possible. He convinces Harry that Norman killed himself since he died from stab wounds from his own glider. Because as we know, there's no other way the Green Goblin glider can stab you other than accidental suicide. But it works and Harry saves the— oh, he's dead again. Now, jokes aside, I actually quite like Harry's character arc overall. From friend to enemy to ally again, and despite some shaky storytelling in this film, I think his arc mostly still works. and it comes to a pretty satisfying and bittersweet conclusion. I only wish more of the film focused on this storyline, as it's probably the most interesting and resonant one in the film, and surprisingly, it hit me in the feels. It's pretty effective. Anyway, then Spider-Man and Venom fight, and it comes to a pretty creative conclusion with Peter solving how to defeat Venom, and the CGI actually looks pretty good here. And then Eddie just decides he'll die too? Okay, rest in peace, I barely knew you, but cool. The last villain to have their story conclude is Sandman, who almost has a really great story in this film. I love his origin story and his motivations, which are both pretty unconventional, but once he becomes Sandman, a lot of his motivation just goes out the window and he just becomes a generic villain. Then he disappears a bit, then he's suddenly retconned to have killed Uncle Ben by accident. And okay, Peter forgives him, which is a nice moment, but they don't really spend enough time together for this moment to work. And what if Sandman is just lying, Peter? I've said repeatedly that this film has too much stuff going on and it's too rushed, and the proof of it is here. We have not one, but two storylines in Harry's story and Sandman's story that are both almost excellent, but because of how rushed these elements were in the film, it just misses the mark slightly. So then Sandman gets blipped.
I don't feel so good.
Tobey cries some more, and hey, what are the Stacys doing at Harry's funeral? They never met him. Shouldn't they be at Eddie's funeral? Wait, did Eddie have a funeral? And then Peter and MJ keep going like nothing ever happened. The end. No, seriously, I can't think of any real changes or arcs these two characters went on, both independently and related to each other. Their relationship subplot was by far the most confusing part of the movie, and with the film over, I'm still confused about what the point of all their drama was. Also, it just occurred to me that Peter doesn't propose to MJ at the end of this movie, which begs the question of what was it all for? But hey, at least it's over. So, what do I think about Spider-Man 3? Well, being honest, I don't hate it. This film is still made largely with the same cast and crew as Spider-Man 1 and 2 were, and that passion passes on to 3 as well. Sam Raimi very much understands every facet of this character and is able to direct scenes with such unique style and energy. This movie is still very funny, still colourful, there's some pretty good dialogue and some great performance in this movie. And there are several scenes, sequences and arcs that I rather liked. However, as I have said way too many times in this review, this movie just has way too much going on. This is really only the fault of Sony, who unfortunately didn't learn their lesson after this film, because apparently Venom wasn't even supposed to be in this movie, and if you take him out, the film almost becomes cohesive. If you take out the Venom and Eddie Brock stuff, Gwen Stacy, the Uncle Ben retcon, the marriage subplot, and you give the storylines that actually work, like Harry's arc, Sandman, and heck, even the symbiote storyline, the time that they needed, the film I think would be a lot better remembered. This movie is a meme, just like its predecessors, and I love it for its memes. They are not the problem with Spider-Man 3. It's Sony, and as a result, the writers working overtime to try and cram everything in this movie, and that's the main problem and my primary source of criticism for Spider-Man 3. I watched this remembering that I hated it, but whilst watching, I found a lot I quite liked actually. Okay, there's also a lot I disliked, which made this an imperfect and very flawed conclusion to the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, but it could have been much worse. At least we got a third installment in this trilogy. And well, that's a wrap on a video that took a lot longer to make than I expected. I hope you guys liked it, I very much enjoyed making it, and rewatching this movie as well. In the meantime, however, what were your thoughts on Spider-Man 3? Let me know in those comments down below, and for the time being, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment, and I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.